because I knew what was going on in her brain, okay, and I knew what was going on in her heart. But Lady Aven, this is why I don't like talking to females. You guys know how to control your emotion, okay? Your emotions, um, and just here's a Kleenex for your crocodile tears or whatever. But anyway, hello everybody, welcome to the Sewing and Reaping YouTube channel. And today, what I want to do is I want to talk about my discussion with Lady Aven, just real quick. Since I got muted multiple times, which is no surprise, I kind of expect that when I'm dealing with atheists, which is why I do it to them so much when they come to my channel. Now that you guys see it happening on somebody else's platform, you guys can see why I do it on mine, right? But anyway, we was discussing whether or not God existed earlier today. We had a Skype conversation, and not a Skype conversation, a texting back and forth. And I personally believe that the conversation was all over the place. I think when you're having a debate about whether or not God exists, according to these atheists, I think that people get caught up in their emotions a lot with this discussion. Uh, when we're talking about proof, for example, that there are life on other planets, people don't get really emotional about that. When we talk about people having evidence that a person can live to a certain age, people don't really get this emotional. You know what I mean? They bring whatever they have and you know and they discuss it like adults. When people talk about evidence that a person is the thing that they claim, they don't really get emotional like that until you get deal with atheism, where they pretend that they want evidence for the lack of belief of God, and they really don't. And I've been saying this on here for since my first year on YouTube, that they don't give a hoot about no evidence. Okay, they don't even know what the word means. And you know what I'm gonna do for this particular channel, since atheists will not articulate what these words mean, since atheists will not sit down and talk about these things, I, G-Man, will. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to teach you guys what evidence is. I'm going to teach you guys what a God is again. And I'm going to teach all of you again why atheism is stupid. Okay? The bottom line is, at the end of the day, Lady Haven and they and her husband made a rookie mistake, the same mistake a lot of other atheists make who are not used to debating. And they said that no one's ever proven that a God existed, and then put a period at the end of that. Okay? Bottom line is, at the end of the day, guys, God is proven to exist in a scientific a long time ago. Already showed that with Christmas is a Lie and the playlist they did on the truth about atheism. I did that a billion different times already, so I'm not even going to go through all of that again. Most of them don't even know what the word God means. Okay, what the word, how I use a deity or a God when I'm talking about it is not going to be the same when you're talking to a pagan. A pagan isn't gonna, and when I say a pagan, I mean like a Von Helton or whatever, right? And Von Helton's definition is not going to be the same as a person who is in Islam, okay? And their definition isn't going to be. So when you hear them say things like "no one's ever proven that a God exists," it's stupid. There are people out there that worship poop. There are people out there that worship urine. There are people that go out there and they worship the star and the moon. They say, well, it's a star. Well, duh, that is a star. Most people worshiping the star knows that it's a star. They still worship it as a god. The Egyptians used to worship the Nile River. You'll say it's not a god because it's water. And it's a river. It's a body of water. You know what I mean? And it's like they know it's a body of water, but they worship it as God. And there are reasons that they worship these things of God. I mean, it's idolatry. It's not of God. It's at least not of the God of the Bible or whatever. But they do it because they believe that this river is going to provide healing properties. Or somebody might worship the sun because the sun is responsible, because they believe that they worship the sun, it's going to cause their crops to grow. The reason why I'm pointing this out is because when we're talking about atheism atheism and whether or not God exists, we're dealing with atheism and theism. Theism and Christianity are not the same thing. So they was like back and forth between saying that universally there's no God and then specifically focusing on Christianity, all over the place and whatnot, without defining their terms, without setting rules and parameters for the discussion, getting overly emotional, Lady Haven. And again, here's your Kleenex. Because you don't know what you're doing when you're having a conversation with another adult. Okay? The bottom line is, at the end of the day, even my Bible teaches that there are other gods. However, we call them false gods, we call them idols, we call them things masquerading as gods, but they're really demons or whatever. You know what I mean? Even my Bible teaches me this. This is what happens when you're ignorant about other religions and you only know about Christianity. Absolutely hilarious, guys. So, Lady Aven, I got you a Kleenex here. Learn how to formulate an argument. Okay? Learn how to formulate an argument. All right? If the atheist is going to sit there and say no one's ever proven to you that a God exists, you should probably know what the word means. If you look up the definition like she did, and it's telling you that a God is an object of worship, that is a superhuman being, then in order for you to have a sound, logical argument to say that thing is not a God, you got to be able to define the term and show why those things are not those things. And atheists cannot do that. They're too busy trying their hardest to stay away from their burden of proof. The other argument that I wanted to point out to Lady Aven, whatever the heck her name is, I think it's Lady Aven, that I wanted to point out to her was this. The difference between an atheist and a agnostic. Atheism is really positive atheism at the end of the day. These atheists that claim that there's no such thing as a God, they can't prove that there is no God. They have a faith that God doesn't exist. They demonstrate that they have a religion, okay? An agnostic is somebody that goes out there and says that I don't know if God exists, or they don't believe that it's possible to prove that God exists. It has to do with knowledge. Whereas an atheist just goes out there and just make this stupid claim like Bugs Bunny going, that's all, folks, or whatever, whoever does that or whatever. And they go out there and they make the claim that God doesn't exist. God doesn't exist. How do you know? No one's ever provided any. Stop it. Stop it. If I start playing videos of atheists leaving atheism for Christianity because their burden of proof was met, then you all would be saying something different. This is why I constantly call atheists stupid. What kind of an intelligent person gets involved in the discussion about whether or not something exists without defining your terms? If I had a discussion with you about aliens, right? And I said that the aliens existed, and you say, well, I don't believe that there's life on other planets. I'm going to say I wasn't talking about life on other planets. I was talking about life in other countries. I was talking about illegal aliens. Then you will look stupid for not defining your terms. First, you have to define your terms. Words have more than one meaning, you know. And not everybody who believes in a God is describing a supernatural deity. For example, and this is going to go right over the heads of the atheists that are watching this. So if you're a Christian, you're going to know what I'm talking about. How many of you watch ESPN? How many of you watch Stephen A. Smith talk about LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and these guys and whatnot? And they use religious terms like blasphemy and things like that, right? Things that are usually reserved when we're talking about religious things. It's called hero worship. Kevin Durant has said on multiple occasions that he is a basketball god. Atheists will giggle and laugh and go, oh, you're not a god. Why are they giggling and laughing? They're working on the definition of the Christian God. That's what they're working on. They're not looking at any of the other religions that's out there or the definitions that they're using. So it's absolutely hilarious as listening to these atheists claim that something doesn't exist without first defining your terms. You look stupid when you do that. And I'm convinced that most atheists do not know what a God is at the end of the day. That's why when we ask them, we say, what evidence is good enough to prove to you that a God exists? And you want to know what they say? Well, I really don't know. What if he shows up? What kind of a dumb answer is that you don't know? Well, I could be hallucinating. I could be in the Matrix. How do I know I'm looking at a deity? Well, you're not an atheist no more. Now you're a denialist. At that point, you're a denialist. You ain't no atheist. That is why I have no problem quoting scripture when it says that the fool has said in his heart that there is no God. They are corrupt and they have done abominable works. She was protecting her atheism. She didn't want to have a discussion about whether or not there was any evidence for the existence of God. If you want to see an intelligent conversation with that, I got old videos with experienced atheists talking about this topic where they would never use these stupid, idiotic arguments that Lady Aven was using. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, this is supposed to be for you. I'm too busy laughing on the inside at you and pitying you at the end of the day. Okay? Because her husband was all giddy about making his little jokes, saying that because what they was asking me was, see, man, do you have empirical evidence that you have a relationship with a God that is outside of time and space? And this is the same lady that told me that she went to church for a while. This is the same lady that's going to claim she read the Bible. This is going to be the same lady that thinks she understands what Christianity is all about at the end of the day. Give me a break. Okay? And there's a reason why they said empirical evidence. Everybody in that stream heard me say, at least try to say before I got muted a million times, where I said that I have a stance on faith. By faith, I believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. This is when the atheists would get even dumber and say that, well, Christians have a blind faith. No. There are multiple definitions for faith. I hold to the word pistos, in which my faith is backed with evidence. The problem with you atheists is you guys seem to be so concerned with trying to pwn people and trying to get your laugh on so the reaction community can make money or whatever. You guys forget one very important thing. There are people watching and noticing your dishonesty. I once said the same thing to Alex Botton before he became irrelevant. I once said the same thing about Matt Dillahunty when the Atheist Experience was a heck of a lot more popular than that boring-ish show today. You know what I mean? I once said this to the Amazing Atheist and a whole bunch of other people on here. JDK, a whole bunch of other people on here. There's always somebody out there watching, and they know if you're being honest, and they know if you're being dishonest. Why were they so afraid for me to say that I know that you know that God exists, you just suppress the truth and unrighteousness? You want to know why? That argument ain't getting beat by nobody. Nobody in the atheist community. Even if they tried to flip it around and say the same thing about me regarding evolution or something like that. That argument isn't beat because it's the truth. They're holding back information that could make them change their mind about how they see God. And they're doing it in unrighteousness. They're doing it dishonestly. You know what I mean? So that has to be remembered when you guys are listening to these conversations. Do not assume atheists are telling you the truth. Okay? She said, and I quote, that no one's ever proven that a God exists. That means that no one's ever proven it to me. No one's ever proven it true. And it took me actually pointing out to her, because they was bad at articulating this, that then you got to be talking about yourself. And anybody that's got any experience of debating me, they know the first thing I'm going to say, well, are you a former Christian? Now, I don't know what her answer is. The answer is going to be no, because on the Skype conversation, she said she was never a Christian. You already know how the conversation goes. You know what I mean? So I try to sit back and give people in the atheist community the benefit of the doubt. I try to listen to what they got to say and try to follow their logic. But when you come out and insult my intelligence and say things like, well, no one's ever proven that a God... Woman, stop it. You don't even know what the word means. And I asked that lady in chat over and over and over again. And when I say chat, I mean on Skype, she couldn't answer the question. I talked to her and she finally went to the dictionary to get a definition. Ma'am, this is what I advise you to do, okay? When you're done PMSing, there are several Christian people. Matter of fact, William Lane Craig is a good person that you should go listen to. Stop listening to your lying deities, your lying idols that you listen to on here, like Matt Dillahunty, Dreadnought Silvers, The Geek Room, and some of these other morons on here. Start listening to people on here who actually think before they talk. Without God, young lady, you or your husband cannot make sense of this world without him. The tatted Jedi cannot make sense of this. It can't make sense of anything in this world without God. Okay? Dragonaut can't make sense out of his pathetic worldview without God. Miss Parker can't make sense out of her pathetic worldview without God. BGTV, the one who doesn't know if he's this way or that way. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, can't make sense of his worldview without God. That's simple. You guys, if you guys want to have an adult conversation about this, don't tell me that I can't tell you what I think you believe. It's almost like you're intimidated or something. Like you're scared that you have to admit that God exists. Because we all know atheism is all about hating the God of the Bible. It has nothing to do with Islam, has nothing to do with Hinduism, has nothing to do with paganism. That's why you guys are so insanely ignorant about these religions. Talking about, she had the nerve to try to convince somebody like me that she looked at these other religions. No, you did not. Because if you did, you would understand why I asked you, ma'am, to define the word God. I don't think you know what it means. Like, if I was a Muslim and I wasn't a Christian, what's the definition of God? If I was a pagan and not a Christian, what is the definition of God? You or your husband don't know. So why does it matter? It matters. It matters because as an atheist, that there's no such thing as a God across the board. The moment you leave one religion with a deity out there that you believe in, you ain't no atheist no more. You're a theist. Atheism means to be without a God, not without Christianity. My goodness, how many times do I got to explain this to grown adults? You guys got to start paying attention and taking notes when you guys watch my videos. Like, honestly. So anyway, guys, I just felt like I needed to make this YouTube video. I kind of feel sorry for that lady. I don't know if her husband is the one that's negatively influencing her to behave and act like that. I don't know if it's people in the atheist community or whatever. But at the end of the day, this lady thought her script was unbeatable. And it's not. Been there, done that. You ain't no atheist, ma'am. Okay? You haven't even heard this one yet. About me believing that you're a misotheist and an anti-theist. If I had enough time to talk in here, we could have gotten to the Bible, how you felt about God's morality, and all of that wonderful stuff. And you would have really exposed yourself more than what you already did tonight. My only advice to you, ma'am, is that when you get away from your husband and you go to the bathroom, bring a Bible in there with you. Okay? Open up to John chapter 3 and read the part where Jesus said that if you want to be that if you want to get into heaven, that you must be born again. Not according to the will of the flesh, but according to the will of the Spirit. Not trying Christianity. Not going to church and believing that you're doing something. Because the act of going to church don't save nobody. Only Jesus' blood can save you. It's the only thing that can justify you before a holy God. You must turn away from your sins. Okay? And stop listening to uneducated atheists on here that can't even define the word God. It's not good. All right? So, ma'am, after you finish crying your ears, and when you're done PMSing, maybe I'll re-add you to Skype because I just removed you from that. Okay? Because our time is up, man. I only give you guys really one chance. Because I believe universally about you atheists that you guys are unreasonable, you're illogical, and y'all don't know what the heck y'all talking about. All right, now, let's say hypothetically speaking, everything I said on this stream I'm wrong about. She ain't PMSing. I was insulting her. I was displaying bad behavior. when I was in a room with her, even though they would be accused of the same thing too. Let's just say that that I'm not doing a good job with having the discussion with them. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that's true. The dumbest thing that this woman could have done was to mute me and boot me simply because I was doing what she asked me to do. And that's to give her the argument for the Christian God. That was just dumb. That's just dumb. Okay? If you don't like me, if you don't like my argumentation for the Christian God existing, then don't have a conversation with me. And I'm gonna tell everybody what it is again. And this goes for every atheist that is listening to me right now. You already know that the God of the Bible exists. You just suppress the truth about the God of the Bible in unrighteousness. Because of your hatred for his nature, your lack of understanding of his word, and because you absolutely love your sin.